You know, one of the things I am loving about these new Blu-ray releases of films I saw years ago isn't just being able to revisit films I like, it's being able to revisit films I didn't like and give them another chance. And this is a case. This is the Jackie Chan film Gorgeous from 1999. This came out, I guess, maybe right after Rush Hour did, and it was exciting at the time for me as a big Chan fan that I didn't have to go to Chinatown to pick up a copy. I didn't have to import a copy of this movie. It got a release stateside from Columbia TriStar Home Video on DVD. I was able to get a DVD of a brand new Jackie Chan movie, and it had a Jackie Chan commentary and extras, which at that point you were having to get discs from other parts of the world or imports, and they usually weren't always English friendly. They weren't always that great presentation wise. And at the time I was like, wow, I can buy a new Chan film on DVD. Let me grab that. Wow, it's a romantic comedy. He's not in it all that much, but the fights are good. So I didn't ever really love Gorgeous. I always kept the disc because it had a really good fight at the end of the movie. So now 88 Films has released a brand new Blu-ray of Gorgeous with Jackie Chan, Shuki, and Tony Leung, and a cameo from Stephen Chow. Here's another thing too. This has two versions of the movie. What we got in this country was the international version that was, I think, 99 minutes. This Blu-ray has that. I keep looking over here because I have a copy of it. This Blu-ray has the international English language dubbed version at 99 minutes that we saw here, but it also has the original uncut Hong Kong version. And this was the case with a lot of Chan films, especially after a certain period. What we got here were retooled for the US versions that slimmed down the storyline in favor of the kicking and the slapping and the fighting and the punching. And they would be English dubbed, sometimes very poorly. And sometimes in other countries, sometimes Japan had longer versions that you could only get there. And what I'm loving about these new Blu-rays we're getting of a lot of this stuff now is they put it all on one. I'm not having to buy a bootleg to get this. I'm not having to buy something that's not in English. In the old days, let me tell you, back in my day, I've become that guy only for movies. Back in my day, we would pay for bootleg videotapes recorded off Japanese laserdiscs of Jackie Chan movies that weren't even in English. They just had Japanese subtitles across the bottom because we were so desperate to see these. And you could sort of follow the story, but the action was phenomenal and it didn't matter. Those days are gone, and I'm so happy about that. So what is this movie about, you fool, you fool? So Gorgeous is really the story of the Shuki character. She is this very simple, very childlike young woman, let's say low 20s, upper teens, low 20s, who lives in some fishing village, and she dreams of a romantic life like in the movies, like in the storybooks, and she finds a message in the bottle saying, I want to paraphrase, we're meant to be together, I love you, come find me in Hong Kong. I don't remember what it said, but let's just, for the sake of, as far as you're concerned, that's what it said. And she goes to Hong Kong and she meets up with the person who wrote that, which was Tony Leung, who, let's say, isn't all that into females. And he acts as her sort of protector and confidant while she goes looking for love in Hong Kong. Who she finds is Jackie Chan, who plays, in this film, a very atypical role for Chan, a successful recycling magnate. So he's a businessman. He got a lot of, but he's a businessman who likes to stay fit and train. And he's warring with a fellow, apparently industrial guy who keeps having his thugs try to beat Chan up. So you have these two stories. So for the action fans, there is action in this, and Chan does do what he does best in some really good sequences. One on a boat that's phenomenal, that kind of harkens back to Dragons Forever a little bit in some of the things he does with like a staircase and banister. And railings are always a good thing. If you see a Jackie Chan movie and he goes into a place with a lot of railings, sit tight. It's going to get good. And then later at the end, there's a couple mano a mano fight scenes that are really good. There's one on a motorcycle that was used in the trailers with some thugs and metal bats, and there's one in on I guess a top level of a ferry or a parking garage, and then there's the finale in the film that takes place amongst shredded paper in his recycling factory. And Brad Allen is in this film. Brad Allen, if you're a fan of Chan films, you'll recognize as, number one, his opponent in this movie, but he was part of the Jackie Chan stunt team. He was the English-speaking white guy in the Jackie Chan stunt team, a phenomenal martial artist and stunt man from Australia, who I learned through the extras in this film, sadly passed away not long ago, but also became like a really successful stunt director, stunt coordinator for major films. Like he did Shang-Chi, he did Kingsman, and a lot of things you've heard of. springboarding out of being part of the Jackie Chan stunt team. So the story is this romantic thing of Shuki and Chan sort of falling for each other, and being interfered with by Chan having these bad guys trying to beat him up, and it doesn't really gel all that well. It, to me, feels much more like a Shuki movie than it does a Jackie Chan movie. It's like 15 or more minutes before he even shows up in the uncut version of the film, which is what I watched. And it's, for hardcore Chan fans, it probably is going to be lower tier, but the action's really good. And Shuki is very charming in this film, but she's also very childlike. And there is that age discrepancy between the much older Chan and the much younger Shuki, who's also acting like a little kid, more or less, which makes it even kind of a little weird. But she's charming. Chan is great and charming. It was at a point where he was still doing just about all of his own stunts and action. I love Jackie Chan, but he's gotten to a point where he's using a lot of doubles, a lot of wire work, a lot of CGI, and it sort of takes away what you liked him for. Totally get that he can't really do it anymore. Nobody at his age, with all the injuries he suffered, really can maintain that level. I just personally always would prefer to see him moving into drama, which he can do great, or comedy, which he can do great, or just more hand-to-hand, hand-jivey stuff than trying to look like he's jumping onto a moving train in a speedboat. So the action, as I said, very, very good in this film. Honestly, the reason I kept the DVD of Gorgeous is so that I could just watch the action scenes, because at the time, wow, DVDs are chaptered, so you can just go bop, 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 he's fighting that guy, bop, bop, he's fighting that guy, bop, bop, end credits. Speaking of the end credits, it also, a very atypical film. The end credits are not so much outtakes like you usually get in a Chan film, but they're like dialogue flubs. And it's all done under this like syrupy romantic end theme song. There are dolphins in this film. This is a very different Jackie Chan movie. But I must say, I did like it more watching it again. I think because the presentation looks so good on this, the extras are really good on this, and those action sequences are really good. So let's move on to the extras portion of the evening, shall we? Now that I've been yapping almost for 10 minutes about this film. So as I said, the Hong Kong cut is available in Cantonese 5.1 or the English dub. So you do get the English dub for the full-length 2-hour version. The international cut is English or Cantonese, English dub, which is weird that the English dub has somebody else doing Jackie Chan's voice. There was, before he did his own sync sound films in English, he did have somebody who was British doing his dubbing, and it was pretty much the same voice for all his movies. For this, it's a different voice, and it's weird because at this point, he started doing his own dubbing for the English dubs of the film, so it was just a little weird and out of place to me to hear somebody else doing his voice. You get, oh, I didn't mention, Stephen Chow is in this film. Do you know Stephen Chow? Most people know Kung Fu Hustle, Shaolin Soccer. He was around the time this movie came out, mid-90s to early 2000s, top Hong Kong star, incredibly funny. His stuff really hasn't come out here other than those releases I mentioned, but incredibly funny. That he was shooting a film called King of Comedy at the same time Chan was shooting this movie Gorgeous, and they sort of agreed around the same studio. They agreed to do a cameo in each other's movies. I never saw the Stephen Chow cameo until I got this disc because it wasn't included in the American version. It's really funny. If you don't know who he is, that 1 minute or so of Stephen Chow is like prime Stephen Chow. Very funny. I actually rewound it to watch it a couple times. It was great to finally see that. But this movie was actually directed by a guy, Vincent Kok, K-O-K, who was Stephen Chow's director for a few movies. So that sort of, it was easy to make that cross-promotional cameo there. What do we have for extras? We have a commentary by Frank Zheng and PJ, where are we here? Sorry, FJ DeSanto. That's very good. Frank Zheng is always great. He ran Tai Seng Home Video for many years, so he knows all the people involved in these movies. He knows the history of all these players. He knows what the film industry was like at that time. And you get a lot of inside skinny on what was going on with Chan and the industry and Shuki and all that. So it's a really good commentary. Another commentary that is arguably more interesting even, not that the first one wasn't, is by, what do we have? Mike Leader and Arnie Venerama on their Hong Kong film experts, both of which have worked extensively with these people. I believe Mike Leader said he was on the set during the making of this movie oftentimes. So their commentaries are a little bit looser, a little bit funnier, a little bit more dishy, and fascinating. And they'll point out, they'll be like, that was a double right there. And they say why. They would use doubles in these films, not because necessarily the actor couldn't do it, but because the schedule they were on, they would just bring in somebody who could do that flip or who could do that kick or do whatever that was better for the character. They didn't want to limit what you saw on screen by what the actor could do, which I thought was interesting, and I'd never heard that before. We have a half-hour, 17-minute tribute on Brad Allan, the co-star, and that's really impressive. I didn't really know much about the guy other than he had worked with Chan in some extras with him being interviewed or on some of the other Chan or Sammo Hung releases that have come out of late. You get a 24-minute interview with the director about making Gorgeous. That was really interesting. You get a commentary, I should have said, by Jackie Chan. It was done for the original DVD release so that it was on the original DVD release. I don't know if he's done many commentaries. It's done in English, and he gets really in-depth about his process, which I found fascinating. He talks about the movie you're watching, but he also talks about how he makes movies and how he picks projects and how he does his acting and how he does stunts. And it was really honest, really probing and in-depth. This release, again, so much makes up for how so-so the movie is in this package that this, for me, is a keeper. We have 2 versions of the music video, which is a super cheesy, syrupy Hong Kong Chinese love ballad with a male and a female singer, because this is a super cheesy, syrupy love ballad movie. You get original making of Gorgeous, which is a half-hour standard def 4:3 making of. A lot of video shot on the set at the time of the film's production. So if you want to see behind the scenes shot on video and not film, there's that. You get the original 2-minute Hong Kong trailer, which sells the romance mostly and then talks about the action at the end. And then interestingly, you get the English trailer, which is 1.5 minutes and sells almost exclusively the fact that this is an action movie with Jackie Chan, and oh yeah, there might be kissing in it too, which I found interesting. So the package itself, you have a nice slipcase with new artwork, and there we are, and then the slipcase slips right off, and you get a nice sturdy case, same artwork here, and this is pretty cool. I haven't actually explored all this myself. You get the disc, and under the disc is not breaking the disc while we take it off, is a reversible cover featuring artwork of the time. And then you get can you hear that? A pretty hefty booklet on the making of the film. It's a lot of words in there. You get a mini poster that features the new artwork on one side. This is essentially the same as the cover. You get the new artwork on one side. Oh no, that's the original Hong Kong poster art on one side, and then another art on the other side. And as I said, it's a reversible cover. So this is a really nice package for a movie that initially I thought was like, I'll keep it for the fight scenes. I might still say I'm mostly keeping it for the fight scenes. I'm keeping it for the fight scenes, and I'm keeping it for the Stephen Chow scene, which is really funny. And I would recommend this for Jackie Chan fans or the Shuki Curious. Is 1999's new Blu-ray release from 88 Films, Gorgeous.